Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I want to talk about Candida. I have to say I've been most reluctant about doing a video on this topic just because I find this is one thing that is many times overly diagnosed and wrongly diagnosed, and people are self-diagnosing themselves with Candida, and they're taking all sorts of herbs and potions and remedies and going on super restrictive diets unnecessarily. And a lot of times this can cause more harm than good. This can actually start causing yeast issues and fungal issues if you're taking all sorts of herbs that unnecessarily. And I find it quite disturbing actually within sort of the natural health industry what's going on with this whole Candida thing, because a lot of people have issues. They're having digestive issues or they're having skin issues, and they're told they have Candida, but it could actually be something else, and it's not a good thing. And I find in general people need to educate themselves on Candida. If they're told they have it, they need to look it up and really know what it is and what are the real symptoms of Candida, because having just some bloating after you're eating or having sugar cravings is not necessarily Candida. Candida is a fungal infection within the body, either internally or externally. And that's what I'm going to go through today, is what are the symptoms of it, and for those that do have Candida, how to get rid of it. Candida is not one of these things that you have forever, and it's not something that you have to be on a restricted diet for a year and you're still fighting it. It shouldn't be like that. It's actually not that difficult to reverse. It might take some time, but it is reversible, and it's not something that takes years and years and years of doing. And it's not something that people necessarily have to go on a crazy, like, sugar-free restrictive diet to get rid of either. So first, let's go through the symptoms of Candida. So Candida is a yeast infection or fungal infection within the body, okay? Either shows up internally or externally. Starting from the top of the body, it can come up in the mouth. You can get oral thrush, which is very painful. It's a yeast infection within the mouth. It's usually patches of fungus that's found either in the roof of the mouth or on the gums or in the inside of the mouth. It's not the white coating on your tongue, okay? It's real fungal infection within the mouth, and terribly painful, difficult to eat. A lot of times people with a compromised immune system are prone to getting oral thrush. Next symptom that someone would get if they have Candida would be either sort of like a thrush rash, or yeast rash, they'd call. And that too, it's sugar related. People that are pre-diabetic or diabetic are very prone to getting a yeast rash on their skin. And a lot of times it comes up sort of in moist areas of the body, or areas of the body where there's skin that's rubbing, right? So under the armpits or behind the knees or in the groin area. Or for women, it might be under their breasts. And it's also a very painful rash, but it's a specific type of rash that is a fungal rash, okay, and that too is usually it has to do with an imbalance within the body and having to do more with an inability to be metabolizing sugar, and it comes up on the skin. Another symptom of having Candida or having a thrush or yeast overgrowth is a yeast infection, and yeast infections come up internally, and either people get vaginal yeast infections, or they get jock itch, or they get even a yeast infection within their intestines. If you have this and you're getting it chronically, like you just have chronic yeast infections, you'll know. You'll definitely know. You'll have signs and symptoms. You'll have white discharge coming out of you, and it's very itchy and it's very uncomfortable, and you want to be seeing someone to get it treated, and changing your diet and changing your lifestyle. And lastly, another symptom of having any kind of Candida would be having athlete's foot and fungus on the feet. Okay, these are the typical signs and symptoms that you have Candida. Along with that, you might have bloating, you might have other issues, but the main issues is having a serious yeast infection that you would know of. Okay, there's no way around it. It's very, very uncomfortable. And the main thing with Candida is that it's not only diet that people need to be considering, but it's also the environment that they're living in, or the environment that they're working in, or the environment that they're in a lot, okay? The climate of an environment can cause Candida or can contribute to Candida. So let's say someone lives in a very humid environment, a very wet environment, a very damp environment, whether they live in a humid part of the world, or they live in the basement of a home where there's a lot of water and a lot of moisture, people are prone to getting Candida and yeast infections, fungal infections. And so that's something to consider. If you're having issues with having fungal infections and chronic ones, and look around to where you're spending most of your time. Where do you live? Do you live in a basement apartment? Are you living in a very wet part of the country? Like, what's going on? Are you spending time outdoors in the sun? Or are you always in the darkness indoors in a damp environment? And sometimes just by getting either a dehumidifier, a machine that actually takes out some of the water in the air, that can help, or moving to an upstairs apartment, or being somewhere where there's more sunlight as opposed to dampness, that can help. Especially if someone has a chronic issue, they have to look into that. So first thing is your environment. Another thing too is medications. Someone taking a lot of medications, a lot of antibiotics. Antibiotics kill all the bacteria in your body, including the good stuff. Everyone does have a little bit of Candida in their body. Everyone has a little bit of yeast, okay? It's normal. But you don't want to have an overgrowth of it where it's taking over certain parts of your body and causing infections. And so when someone takes antibiotics, like a course of antibiotics, a lot of times people are prone to getting yeast infections from it. And that too, if that is happening to you, make sure you're eating a lot of fermented food. So you can be eating yogurts, you can be eating kefirs, you can be eating sauerkraut or kimchi, things like that. If you ever have to take a course of antibiotics or medications, to be either eating fermented foods or taking a probiotic, because that will help to counter the bad bacteria in your body so that you don't get a yeast infection. Okay, because that is not comfortable. Imagine being sick, you're taking antibiotics, and then you get a yeast infection. It's awful. So that's something too to consider, is try your best to take care of yourself so you're not taking antibiotics, you're not prone to that stuff. And to not be taking medication unnecessarily as well. You know, a lot of times people are taking too many antibiotics and they don't have much good bacteria in their body because it's always being wiped out. And so it's important to build that up. It's also important to be building up your immune system and making sure that your body's strong and healthy. Because when your body's strong and healthy, if ever you do get sick, it's able to keep you in balance. It's able to keep that good bacteria in balance and keep the bad bacteria down. It's not about getting rid of it completely, it's keeping it down. You need some of that bad bacteria in your body to balance things out. And lastly, diet. Diet does contribute to a yeast infection, okay? Having too much sugar in your diet. But a lot of times people go to the extreme of cutting like everything out. They cut out even fruit. And sometimes it's unnecessary. Sometimes they just need to be cutting out the white sugar, cutting out the high fructose corn syrup, cutting out the candy bars and the cakes and the cookies and the donuts, cutting out the soda, cutting out alcohol, those things. Cut those things out. Cut out the white bread. Cut that kind of stuff out and see how things go. A lot of times when someone takes out the sugar or even takes out things that contain yeast, like breads, like beer, things like that, the problem goes away, and they don't unnecessarily have to take out fruits. And sometimes people go too extreme, and you don't necessarily need to be doing that. And it only just creates stress and unhappiness, and that too contributes to the problem. If you're stressed about your food and taking everything out, then that's not going to make you healthy. That's not going to help your body fight any kind of infection off. It really isn't. So it's about taking a few things out and seeing what happens with that. And lastly, the thing is with having any kind of Candida or yeast infection is that it shouldn't take forever to get rid of. It really should not be taking years and years of being on a sugar-free diet to get rid of it. And if that's the case, there's something else going on. Your immune system is being compromised by something. And a lot of times I find that people are being misdiagnosed with Candida when really they have food allergies, they have food sensitivities, they have too much sugar in their diet, too much processed food in their diet, or they're living in an environment that is causing them to constantly be having fungal infections, you know, or even it could be a weight issue. Sometimes if people are overweight, then that too much trapped moisture externally on the body is causing chronic yeast issues. These things need to be looked at, you know, and also what is your overall health looking like? You know, if you're sick, then yeah, you're going to be definitely more prone to getting yeast infections and fungal issues. So it's about taking care of your overall health. You know, I think lastly, one thing I do want to mention is people to be cautious. Don't be running out taking herbs for Candida, because a lot of times the herbs can be irritating your gut. It could be irritating your digestive system. You don't really know what you're taking. And that's like the last thing you want to be doing, is irritating your gut when you have a yeast infection, perhaps in your reproductive system or in your intestines. You know, you want to be doing things that are gentle. You know, and so it's not about going out irritating your body by taking herbs that you don't know anything about, or some people go to the extent of getting colonics and enemas and doing all these things to irritate even more their intestines, thinking that they have a yeast infection in there, and then they start creating one because they're flushing everything out of their intestines, including the good bacteria that's trying to fight that stuff off and keeping things in balance. So the main thing is you want to always be gentle with your body. And another thing to consider too is, if you're being diagnosed with something, sometimes go and get a second opinion if you're not quite sure, or look it up and educate yourself. One thing I can say is, in any industry, including the natural health industry, people make mistakes. People do get wrongly diagnosed. People are self-diagnosing themselves with all sorts of stuff. What so-and-so might have might not be what you have. So it's important to take your health and to take these issues into your own hands and educate yourself. I remember once speaking to someone that worked within the natural health care industry, and they outright admitted, you know, that in every industry there's a boogeyman. Everyone loves a boogeyman. And this person said the boogeyman sells. A lot of people out there are selling products and information and all sorts of stuff on Candida and telling people they have Candida because they have bloating or they have sugar cravings and things like that. And they don't necessarily have it. And not everyone's out looking for your well-being. And that's not necessarily to say that like every natural health care practitioner out there is wrongly diagnosing people, because they're not. There's people out there that have great intentions and are very thorough with things. And there are people that do have Candida, but not everyone that's told that has it really does have it, and not necessarily have to go on these extreme diets or taking extreme herbs and pills and supplements and all sorts of stuff. So always take your health and these matters into your own hands. And the main thing too is that if you are having issues where you are chronically getting yeast infections and having fungal infections in your body, the main thing is that's a symptom that your immune system is down. So you need to really take care of your health, and it's on all levels. It's the body, it's the mind, it's the emotions, it's the spirit, it's everything. And to get healthy and take it into your own hands, step by step. All right, so that's pretty much my view on Candida. And I just want to remind everyone too, if you're interested in doing a 7-day raw food challenge, the next one starts this coming Monday, August 18th. And it's an online program, so you can do it anywhere from around the world. And it's 7-day raw food cleanse. So it's a great way of doing a cleanse where you're still getting to eat, and you get to do 7 days of eating healthy raw foods. When you sign up, you get the recipes, the menu planner, and all the guidelines on what to do. There's an online forum, and there's daily videos created specifically for the challenge. All right, so if you want more information on the 7-day raw food challenge coming up this Monday, August 18th, go to my website at radiantcentral.com, click on products, and you'll see it there. Have a super fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.